It's one of the widespread rules of journalism. News reporters usually don't publicly share their personal political views, and they especially don't do it when interviewing or reporting on a politician. So when this moment happened, it turned some heads.
Our next question will come from Maria Fernanda at Univision.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. For me, it's an honor because I actually got to vote for the first time as a nationalized citizen, and I voted for you.
Did a reporter just break that ethical rule? It's time for the Truth-O-Meter Minute. Hey everyone, it's Gabby with PolitiFact. That last person you just heard is Maria Fernanda Reyes, and while her compliment was well received by Harris, it just didn't go over so well with other people, including journalists. For example, Los Angeles Times White House reporter Noah Bierman wrote on Twitter, "Not sure I've ever seen a journalist tell a politician that she voted for her." Both Reyes and Univision received critiques on social media, but then came a plot twist. Univision President Daniel Coronel tweeted a statement. Despite being announced as a Univision reporter, Reyes had, quote, no association with Univision and, quote, was not a part of this media organization. The White House said Reyes had misrepresented herself as a part of Univision's crew to the vice president's staff, but underwent the same level of security screening and was never a threat to the vice president. Univision interviewed Reyes live on television the next day to clarify the mix-up, and the network later shared that Reyes had been invited to that press conference as a guest due to her role at a Stanford University education and research program called the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative. So it seems like that case of mistaken identity has been solved, but it still leaves us with a really good example of just how important the code of ethics are in journalism. To better describe the rules that journalists should stick to when reporting, here's Kelly McBride, Senior Vice President at the Poynter Institute.
This goes company by company, right? So the New York Times is going to have a slightly different take on this than NBC News, than NPR, than the Poynter Institute, right? Like it literally goes company by company. But in most cases, a news organization that covers politics is going to ask either all of its journalists or specifically its journalists that cover politics to be very discreet about their own personal political preferences. And the reason for that is because they want the audience to be comfortable in the fairness of the process. And if they can't see that process all the time, then they need to be comfortable in the expertise, in the professional abilities of the individuals who are doing that. So in the same way that your doctor may have personal reservations about the COVID vaccines, but he's probably not going to tell you that because it differs with what the general scientific community is saying. In that same way, a journalist would keep her preferences and her political behaviors, how she voted, to herself, so that when you consume her work and when she reports on both Republicans and Democrats, they can only judge her by her work. They can't judge her by what they believe to be her personal preferences.
Is there ever any wiggle room where someone can say, maybe I can fudge and share my politics a little bit? Or should they basically stick to the guidelines and, it's best to keep politics out of it?
So columnists and opinion writers almost always share in different ways their personal beliefs, right? Because they're writing their own opinions. So that's one space for wiggle room. Some organizations that have a political point of view, that approach the news from a political point of view, they're also fine with their journalists sharing their personal preferences. Not all of them, though. Some of them prohibit that, even though they have a political point of view. And then some organizations that are specialty organizations, right? Like they maybe don't cover the news in a generic way, but they cover a slice of the news. It might be video gaming or entertainment or something like that. Some of those organizations also are more comfortable with their journalists being more transparent about their own personal politics. If news consumers understood that they can, in many cases, go to a news organization's website and look up their code of ethics and look for this public-facing document that in many cases is long and offers a lot of guidance to its journalists, that's the first thing that they can do to understand what the expectations are of a specific news organization. And that if they can't find a public-facing code of ethics, and there are many news organizations that you can't find their public-facing code of ethics, that then they should have questions about that news organization. That's maybe one of the first things that you can look for in terms of when you're sourcing your news and trying to figure out who to trust. A news organization that doesn't have their code of ethics online, it should have one strike against them already.
Those are some good points. To learn more about PolitiFact's principles and to learn more about our independent fact-checking journalism process, go to PolitiFact.com. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more video fact checks, and if you'd like to support our work, go to PolitiFact.com/membership.